You're flat out managing jobs all day, and when you finally have some time to sit down and get some coding done, it feels like it's taking forever, repeating the same manual processes, double checking your quantities and your rates, and making sure you've allowed for everything. Hi, I'm Kevin from Cornerstone Estimating, and in this video I'm going to show you how we go from measurement into data management into getting it all into a final code. And I'll also show you how to revise your codes when the drawings eventually get updated. For the tools, I'll be using Excel for all of the data management and Bluebeam for my PDF reader and my measurement software. You can use any PDF reader or any measurement software of your choice, but just make sure that your measures can be exported into Excel cleanly and minimizes the step where you need to clean up and format the data before you can even use it. Alright, so on screen I've got a project which I was working on in the past. It's a 9-story residential block, and yeah, we're just gonna do some measuring now. Let's assume that we are a flooring trade and we're just gonna get stuck into it. Now, I have already pre-measured this off camera and I'm just showing you some important details while I am measuring. So we're just gonna do the carpet. We're gonna do the timber floor. Okay, so one thing that is very, very critical when we do these measures is how we label our measures. So for example, right now, this is just the default setting I have on the apartment, but we want to tidy up all of these descriptions and separate them in a logical delimiter fashion. So for example, for this room here, first of all, it's level 4 and it's apartment 401. And this is the ensuite, bedroom 1, and it's carpet. And then the code for this carpet in the project is CA1. So your project will have its own codes, its own descriptions. I'm just going to show you this real quick as my example, right? And we'll do the same for these other bedrooms. 401, TFL 8. And then we're going to change the color as well visually. Do some trims. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's just some L trims. Cool. So what we're going to do now is we're going to measure this whole floor. And I know this is a 9-story building, but for this example, I'm just going to show you levels 4 and level 5, and you'll see why, because I also want to show you how we manage revisions when the drawings get updated. So here we're going to open up the file, which I pre-measured before, like I mentioned. I've got level 4 and I've got level 5 done. Okay, and it's just, we've got the carpet in pink, we've got the timber flooring in brown, and then we've got the trims as a count measure in green, and the carpet tiles in the common corridor. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to do a export. So in Bluebeam, you hit this button here, export. So CSV, blah, 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 markups, open the file after creation. So here is our CSV and it's got all of our measures. So what we're going to do now is we need to tidy up this data and basically get it into a pivot table so that we can transfer these quantities into our code template. So, and I'm going to show you how we do that. So first things first, we want to make sure that this process can be repeated. So we're not, or this process can be replicated so that we're not doubling up on this work every time there's a revision. So what we're going to do is we've got my dummy folder, it's just where I've saved my files, and then we've got this downloads folder as well. So we're going to create a new folder. We're going to call it Power Query, and then we're going to take our CSV file and we're just going to convert it into a table by hitting Control T. Okay, so this is now in a table and we're going to save as in a regular Excel workbook like that. Okay, now so we got our Excel workbook. We're just going to cut, paste it in here. Okay, try again. Open it up. So from here, what we're going to do is we're going to open up a new Excel. So we've got the Power Query folder here, which is our raw data, and we've converted that to Excel workbook. That's fine. So we're going to do new Excel. So we'll call it today's date, 25/10/17, and we'll just call it full takeoff. Open that. So this is a blank sheet, and now what we're going to do is we're going to do data. So get data from folder, then hit that folder, open. So there's only one file in there to keep it simple. Transform data. So now what we're going to do is we're actually going to tidy up this data. So double click that to jump in. Double click this one on the table. Come on. Good. So what we're going to do is we're going to just tidy up this data now so that it is we only have to do this process once, and it will be worth it because when there's any revisions, this process will just automatically be done in the future. So we're going to split this column up between level, unit, and then the description, and then the code. And then we're going to promote all of the different headers as well. So split column, delimiter. Now, this is why I was mentioning earlier, it's so important to have a consistent delimiter because that is how we will be splitting up the columns, right? So in my measure, the delimiter was space hyphen space, right? And I can prove this because if I reopen my measure, every one of these measures here, or one of these categories, is separated by a space, hyphen, and a space. And it's so important to maintain that consistency, and you'll see why in a minute. Okay, so we got space hyphen space, okay. So see how that is now all split up, all those columns? And we're just gonna quickly label them. Level, let's do apartment, description, code. And what else can we do to tidy this up? I think we'll just leave it, we'll leave this done for now. Then we just close and load. Okay, so this is the loaded data from the Power Query. And then what we want to do from here is we want to, in the new sheet, we want to label this R0, which is your first revision, and then make this a different color so you don't adjust it. Okay, Control A, copy it all, and do a values paste, and then reconvert this to a table. Control T. Yep, my table's headers. So now this is your data that we're going to be working with. So what we're going to do from here is we are going to insert a pivot table so that we can start manipulating this data. Okay, so we go insert pivot table from data and range. So that's why we convert this data into a table, because you don't want to be mucking around by doing cell references in this field. You want Excel to just pick up the table because you can make a lot of errors this way. So always convert it to a table. Okay, so we'll do existing worksheet and we're going to place it on the right hand side here. Done. Okay, so now that we have a pivot, we are going to do description, and let's do the code, and let's take the measurement and the measurement unit. Okay, so you can see here it's basically done a sum of everything that we've got. Carpet tile 71 meters, and just to do a double check, the grand total is 971, but that includes the count. So we'll just go back here and we'll just confirm. So 930, yeah, because if we highlight all of that, 930, bang. So that's your same as your Bluebeam. So from here, you will just transfer all of the data into your quote. Hey, look, I know I'm going really, really fast because I'm incorporating so many different technical things like Power Query, pivot tables. If you want like a one-on-one tutorial, just let me know. I know this is tough, and that's why people pay big money for estimating. Anyway, let's keep moving. So I'm going to now transfer all these quantities into a code template. So I've just got one created here that I prepared earlier, and you've just got like your company logo, the project name, what your trade is, and then your code reference and your company's details. I've also just pre-filled some of these sections. So the first section is list of clarifications / exclusions, which you need. And then the floor prep, and then the carpet works, timber works, and protection works. So we're just gonna now copy and paste some of this across. We'll start with floor prep. So all the floors will need to be prepped. So we'll do square meter. And what do we got here? Cementitious ramping. So every time there's a transition, we need to do a ramp, right? Or let's just say that's something that we have to do. So we will copy this, count the number of trims, which is every time there's a transition, paste 41, and that's a number. Self-leveling screed, we'll take all the carpet and timber flooring, which is all that, and that's 930. We'll left click that to copy, jump back into the folder and just paste, and same with the leveling. Well, actually, let's just say it's half-half. So it's this divided by 2, and same here. And then the sum of the leveling, so this should actually be grinding. Works. Floors. Cool. So the acoustic, you only need to do acoustic behind the carpets. If you highlight all this, which is your CA1, which is all the same carpet, you have 376. So hit left click that to copy, and then we'll paste it back in here. This one, we'll come back to this in a minute, but let's just say that is all just one carpet. Let's say they want to upgrade the master bedrooms, just the master bedrooms, to a higher grade carpet. So I'll show you how to do that later. And let's say some of the apartments, they've upgraded from a straight lay timber flooring to a chevron lay. So I'll show you how to delineate that with the pivot table later as well. But for now, I've pre-filled this, and then the carpet protection is just this quantity plus this quantity, and we'll make these absolute references. Same here with the timber flooring protection, which is this one plus this one. Oops, sorry, want that absolute reference as well. Done. Okay, so now we're going to move on to how to do up your rates and how we're going to bring the rates into here. Inside my folder, I've also prepared a separate rates Excel, which I'll just show you here now. Basically, you want to do a rate builder that you can see how it's done and rely on these rates for all of your future projects, and have a date, also declare a date when it was last updated, so then you know whether it's still kind of in date. So yeah, I've just got some arbitrary rates here against some of these items, and I've just come up with these descriptions and I've put them in categories. And basically throughout the lifetime of your business, you're going to have a library of rates in one spreadsheet, and basically this is an example of that. And I'll just show you roughly what needs to happen here. So you have your supply rate, and then the consumables, the install rate, and then the overhead you want to apply, and then the profit you want to apply. And then here in this column, you will have the final rate you want to have. And then this is what you will be putting in all your quotes. We're just going to start populating this, and I'll just show you an example. We look at carpets. Typical rates are, let's say you've got $30 for the supply rate per square meter, and then the consumables, let's say it's $4, and then the install rate is say $18 a meter, and then you've got your overheads. So let's say your overheads, you want to apply 10%. So you would go the sum of this times 0.1. Cool. And then for the profit, let's say you want to make 10% as well. So you would go sum of this times 10%. And then this column will just be the sum of these. You feel me? So same thing with this carpet. Let's say it's 120. And then same thing, adhesive, and then the install is the same price, which is 18. Because I've got this in the table, the formula is automatically complete. So, but we want this to complete as well. So I'm just gonna do it real quick like that. Bang. All right. So I'm just gonna artificially populate this, and then you'll see how we bring in the rates into the quote in a minute. Okay. So now that this table is populated, I just want to reiterate once more that please put a date when you last updated this, because if it's like 6 months or 12 months old, you might want to consider updating your rates. Because remember, this whole table, you want to be recycling this to streamline your workflow, so then you don't have to keep building up these rates over and over again. You can just adjust it into these formulas. You know what I mean? Okay, so here's the fun part. We're gonna now put the rate on the right hand side. So we've got our rate library on the right, and then we've got our quote template here. So now what we're gonna do is, instead of manually carrying forward simultaneous wrapping and then matching it here, oh yeah, let's just go 66, or like grinding works, and then there's like this grinding works here, so let's go like 18. Instead of doing that, we're gonna do something fancy and do an xlookup formula. So now an xlookup formula is just a fancy way of what it does is Excel will pick up a keyword that you want to look up for that keyword, and then it would find it in your list of descriptions, and if it finds the keyword, it would match the rate against that same keyword. Let me show you. So in the formula bar here, we're going to do an xlookup. So xlookup formula, and then the lookup value, we're going to look up the word like ramping. Let's just look up ramp. Okay, and the reason why we put this asterisk and quotation marks is the asterisk would look at the whole cell, and if that word ramp appears in that whole cell, it would just take the whole cell as correct. Whereas if you didn't have these asterisks, what will happen is it would be very, very strict, and if the cell says ramp and other stuff, it won't pick it up. It'll only pick up the cell, and it must only have the word ramp in it. So the asterisk is critically important for this step. And the quotation marks is just to declare that it's a word. So you're searching for a text. Comma, the lookup array, we want to pick up this whole column. See how that's complete? It'll look up ramp, it'll look up in the descriptions, and you want it to return this column here, J. And I've just put that in. Now, to finish off the formula, if not found, tell me it's not found. So we want Excel to tell us that, hey, nothing is picked up. So it's a new item in the rate library. So we need to add it to the rate library. Okay. So the match mode, we don't want an exact match. We want a wildcard character match. Because if you choose, like I said, if you choose exact match, you have to be very, very, very strict with your descriptions, which doesn't help us. And then search mode, it doesn't matter. So we can skip that and bang. So what do we get? So from this formula, the xlookup references a separate Excel file, which is this, and it feeds me back the rate 66 against this. So supply and install cementitious ramping 66, and that's right, 66. So notice if I type in oxtech, for example, so I change this word to oxtech, it changes to 18 because that's what it is here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to just copy and paste down this formula like that. And then we just need to update the word and it will just pick it up. So these two, oops, sorry, like that, like that. And so we're just going to update the descriptions now. So instead of oxtech, we're going to do ramp. Oh, so one thing I should mention is that the only challenge with doing this is that you need to have both Excel. If you're having an Excel file reference another Excel file, both of them need to be opened at the same time when you're editing both, because you will break the link. Like for example, if you add rows here, right, that actually updates the column. See how that's now CC and NN? It's following this. Whereas if you were to add columns in your schedule of rates and this wasn't opened, the formula wouldn't update. So basically what I'm trying to say is when you update this rate library, try not to muck around so much with the columns. So get the columns right and it should be fine. So we'll just update this now. We'll do that live. So grinding. So 18, and then this one is leveling, call it speed, and then this is called acoustic, and then this one is called soning for the soning range, 62, and then this one we're going to call it straight, and this one we're going to do film, and this one we're going to do alpha pack. Cool. So the way I've done the template is that it just automatically spits out the subtotal. So it's got a column O times column M, and then it subtotals each category. And then the very last subtotal takes it all as another subtotal formula, and you add GST and then you get your grand total. Okay, now that you've got your quote complete here, you can actually just print the PDF, right? And then send it off to your client and yeah, you're good to go. But here's the real fun part. When the drawings update, how do we update all of this quickly and effectively so that we don't double up on our work? Show you how to do that right now. So previously we were looking at the tender drawings and now we're at the issued for construction stage. So we'll open that up. Let's say some apartment units have combined into one mega apartment unit, or some bedrooms have been upgraded from a carpet finish for the floor. It's now a timber flooring for the floor. So we will have our original set of drawings, which is 15 pages, right? And let's say you've measured all 15 pages, and then you have your new set with no measures and no markups. And it's also 15 pages. So you want to make sure that the number of pages align, because you're going to export your markups. How do we do that again? Markups. Export, okay, and then you would just save it here, whatever, and then go to your new drawing with your new set with no measures here, and then you would import. So you go to markup list, markup, import, and then you would find your folder, which is this Bax file. Open that. So it will carry forward, bring everything through, and it will be on the exact same page where it's on. That's why it's so important that the pages match, okay? So level 3, we didn't do anything. Level 4, and then level 5. So notice right away, go back to level 4. Notice right away, these measures don't match up with this apartment anymore. Apartment 402 and 403 have amalgamated. And what else? There's been some finishes changes. So this bedroom here is no longer a carpet. That's been upgraded to a timber floor. And similarly here, this second bedroom has been upgraded to a timber floor. So we need to physically update these measures to reflect that. And then we go to level 5. Similar situation. We have no change here, no change here, no change here, no change here. This apartment has been amalgamated. So it used to be 2 separate apartments, and now it's a combined apartment, and I think that's the only change. So we're just gonna make that update real quick. So we're gonna delete this, delete this, delete this. There's no more trims because timber to timber, there's no need to terminate. So measure, measure, measure. Now I have already done this. I've already pre-prepared this and I'm just illustrating. And of course, you want to update all the details in the descriptions because that's gonna matter later. Okay, so 402, update to 42/43. living dining timber, so that's fine. And then this one is the common bedroom. So 402/43 bedroom 3 timber. Okay, and then I'm just gonna bring forward the one that I actually prepared earlier. Whoopsie. Yep, so that's been corrected. Notice how I've also updated all the descriptions so it's right. And I've done this for level 4 and I've done this for level 5. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna export this new quantity and I'll show you how to bring this back into a revised quote for your client. Okay, so export like what we've done earlier, same thing. All right. So we're going to convert this to a table, okay, and then we're going to save as, okay, Excel workbook, fine, and then we will, so here is an important detail. The first important detail is that the file name and the sheet name has to match, otherwise the Power Query will fail. Yes, it's very rigid like that. So what we'll do is we'll copy and paste it in here, and then the old one, we're just going to do we can't put it in here because that's already a folder. We're going to produce an SS folder, cut that, put it in SS like that, and then this is going to be our new one. So that's 2. And then we need to make sure the sheet name is also 2. So these two have to be the same. Now, if we go back to the folder, okay, first we'll do a quick high level check, which is we'll come to the area measure. So now we're at 950. Previously, we were at 930. So that's the check, 950. So we come open the folder, and then we come back to the full takeoff, right? We'll create a new folder. So this is called R1 like that. So we won't overwrite. So this is the first revision. We won't overwrite that. And we come back to the Power Query. So there's 62 lines. Yeah, if we look at the new measure, there's 57 lines. So let's see if that works. Come back out, okay? Right click, refresh, 57 lines. See that? And then you can also see the descriptions have all updated. I wonder if we can Control Z and show you. Yeah, so I did a Control Z. If let's say previously, these are all the units that we have, right? Which is 401 and then all that, no amalgamations, right? And then there's obviously 2 corridors. And then if we right click and refresh, bang, it does all of the steps that we did previously. And we don't need to go back into Power Query because we've already set that up previously. I repeat, what makes this work is that it's the exact same file name and sheet name. So for example, let's just go back. I'll just illustrate why this is so important. Let's say we Control Z, we come back out. So now we're back to the original 62 lines. If let's say I go back into the folder, the Power Query folder, and then this is called something else. Let's say this is called 7. What will happen is if I refresh, it won't work anymore. See, there's an error. The key match didn't match any rows in the table. So yes, I figured this out the hard way. So don't do what I do, okay? So this has to be, so let's say it's 7 and then we go in. And if let's say this is also called 7, yeah, it's fine, whatever. Right, the whole thing, won't work. It won't pick it up. So we'll come back to the sheet, rename this to 2, go in, rename the sheet to 2 like that. And then if we come back to the full takeoff, and now if we refresh, it'll give us the full list. Refresh, bang. So it captured the amalgamation. So now what we do is we take all this quantity again, okay? Copy, and you go to the new sheet R1, and then you hard key into here, and then you delete the rows that you're not using. I'll just show you like the previous sheet. This is your previous data, right? Because you copied over, you made a copy of this sheet from R0 and you renamed it to R1. So you just want to carry forward this Power Query into the new sheet. And this is why we do revise sheets, so that we don't supersede our old measures or our old numbers, just in case we need to retrieve it, or we need to remember what's changed, or we need to recall what's changed. So Power Query, that's the new data. Select all, Control A to select all, copy, and then right click at the cell A1 and then paste the value. So now, when you paste the value, you want to make sure that you delete the cells that you're not using anymore, or the measures that you're not using anymore, because this whole list has been updated, right? Paste it and then get rid of these like that. And now when you do your pivot table and you refresh the pivot table, no, this pivot table, you need to get rid of this pivot table because it's referencing the old table. So just create a new one, okay? And that's table 24, that's fine. Because you see how you got that line to show that that's what's being picked up. And then you put this on the right hand side. And then you do the same thing. Description, code, and some measurements like that. Okay, so to do a test, we're gonna copy and paste, we're gonna highlight all of our square meterage, 950 and 81. So we come back to the Bluebeam. 950 and 91, close enough. Oh, so guess what? I actually picked up an error. We need to add wastage. So typically you can do wastage in these areas here, but I prefer to do it inside Bluebeam, and you see why in a minute. The reason why you want to get the wastage and as much right in a Bluebeam is so that when you export it, all of that doesn't need to be recalculated. Like you definitely want to avoid doing like your wastage here, like 10%, and then you do that times the measurement or whatever. Yeah, you really want to avoid doing that, because what will end up happening is if you're relying on these quantities, right? Let's say instead of measure, you take waste plus measure, right? Okay. Yeah, the reason why you don't want to do hard keys in like this is because you want all of it to be done in Bluebeam, because then when you do a copy and paste, all the figures that are already correct, this blue and white table section. Because if you didn't do that, you'd only be copying and you'd be stopped short here with only the highlighted columns, which means you always need to update the formulas every time there's a revision. So I recommend getting this right before the export. And then after the export, you only want to reserve that for the data cleaning and the data management. Yes, you don't want to be doing these calculations after the export. So I'm going to show you now. We're just going to do it arbitrarily. 1.1, or maybe let's say the timber is 15% waste and the carpet is 10%. So okay, so now we repeat the process and I'll show you one more time. So export CSV, export. Okay, tidy this up. Okay, and then we'll just save it, and then we will get rid of this old one, put it in the SS folder, and then grab your new one, which is this one. The reason why you want to save it as an Excel workbook is because I think when you open it as a CSV, it always goes back to its original form. I don't know why. I don't work with CSV. I try not to. Okay, and then we save it. Okay, cut. Power query, paste, didn't work because it's opened. Try again. Okay, and then we want to change to the same name, so 2, and then here we change this to 2. Okay, save, close that. So now we go back to our full takeoff, which is already open. I'll just show you where it's saved. Here, create a new sheet, call it R2. In fact, you can just delete everything here. It's irrelevant, right? And then Power Query. So now, if we right click and refresh, all of these wastage columns, the waste percentage and the waste times measure should be populated. Let's see. Bang. So all the waste, the 10% and 15% waste have been included. No waste was allowed for the trims, that's fine. And all of the columns are all done. So we'll just do a select all, copy. Go into the blank sheet, R2, paste as a value, put this back into a table. Okay, like so, and then we will click into the table from table and range. So table 5, that's correct. And then the existing sheet, we want to put it just next to it here. So now we choose our parameters, which is, what was it before? Description, code, unit, and then sum of waste plus measure. Description. Code, unit, waste plus measure. Okay, there we go. All right, so you can see it's roughly 10% more, so that's great. So now we're going to bring back our fancy pants quote here, create a new sheet, call it R1, and then you would just copy and paste the values. So carpet tiles, the trim. Oh, there's less trims now, so we update that, 34. Grinding works to floors, that's everywhere. So we're going to take everything. Just 1, oh no, it's before the waste. Yes, before the waste. So 995 divided by 2. Yep, so we update that. 995. Done. And this will just go same as that. Because when you sum these two, you get 9950, which is the same, which is the total measure for the whole site. Okay, so for carpet, we got the acoustic back for the bedrooms, which is only these, and we will take including waste. The acoustic backing, the reason why it's less is because remember a lot of the carpet rooms were either cremated, and then the bedrooms were no longer carpets and they were upgraded to timber. So we'll just highlight carpets, take that, and then it's that. And then same quantity, And then, okay, let's say one of the changes was that they want all the master bedrooms to upgrade from the standard Victoria Carpet sodding range into the RC&D cans tufted cut bar, which is more expensive. So what we'll do is we'll sort out the rate, put it back in here, and then because my schedule rate is still open, we can just type in the keyword that we want, which is, let's call it cans, which is the product, and it'll pick up 98.4. So notice here 98.4. Now let's say this schedule rate is not open, so let's close it, right? We close it, all the formulas change, but don't worry about that. Copy across, and then we change this to cans again. I wonder if it'll work. Oh, it bloody does work. That's so cool. So it doesn't need to be open. So that's so cool. Okay, so now we try to work out the quantity. So the total quantity is 304. But what we can do is we can actually separate out just the ensuite, which we pre-prepared because the labels that we prepared before is correct. So what we'll do is we should be able to sort this by carpet. Yeah, let's just filter that. Carpet. Okay, so now we have the carpet tile, which is in the corridors, and then we've got ensuite, bedroom 2 and bedroom 3. So all of the ensuites is 184. Copy that, put it in here, 184. So the balance is 199. So we'll highlight these two, including the waste, put it in here, and then it'll be the same. So it still sums up to 304. And then if you highlight these three, it's 304. Apply installation of corridor carpet tiles. And let's just say it's 77.04, which is the quantity taken from here. If you sum up these three, because that's doubled up for the acoustic backing, it does add up to 381, which is here. That's correct. And what we'll do is, in my schedule of rates, I'll bring that back in. I don't actually have a carpet tile, so we're going to add that in. So 17 carpet. And we're going to do supplier and install 35, and then consumables is 4, and then 18. And then cover 35. We'll do 25. Okay, so that's that. It's 5640. Copy this xlookup again, and then we'll call it carpet tile. And it'll pick up the rate. Input the formula, bang, and then we'll keep going down. Okay, acoustic backing. Same thing here. We come back to the sheet, except we turn off the filter. We want timber now, so we go timber. Let's say they want to upgrade all of the master bedrooms that are getting timber to be a chevron lay installation. So these two units, the common bedrooms, are getting straight lay, and the living and dining is getting straight lay. So that's 680 and 64. Okay, and then acoustic backing will match that plus this. Yeah, okay. Ensuite timber, which is this, 43. So we'll just put that in, 43.78. Meter square, and then the xlookup, we're just going to put here chevron, and it should pick up the word chevron here because that's the only place where it appears. Now if you have a situation where you've got multiple rates for chevron lay, you'll need to put in the actual product. So similarly for the caulking, notice how there's 2 rows here. Okay, first of all, we'll do the quantity, right? So for caulking, it's in linear meter. Basically, we just want to get the perimeter of all of the timber flooring, which is this. So first of all, we'll put in the length in the pivot table. So there's that, sum of length. And then we just want it filtered just for the timber. So the 728 linear meters. Now I know it's close enough and you need to double check. Okay, so 728, 727.99. And then here, for this xlookup, we can't just put caulking because it'll pick up 480. So because there's two rates for the caulking, right? And it'll only pick up the first one. So if you want to pick up the second one, you have to choose a separate keyword to pick it up. So the differences here I can see is 3 mil and 5 mil. So instead of caulking with no other details, you put caulking 5 mil, and then it'll search up this entire thing, caulking 5 mil. So that's how you want to lay out the descriptions and how you want to differentiate all the different rates in your rate library. Okay, so if it's a caulking 5 mil, it'll cost 840 a linear meter. If it's caulking 3 mil, then it's 480. So let's just use 3 mil for this instance, and we'll keep going. So carpet protection, we just need to update these quantities. Oh, they could already be updated because it's linking the above, and this should be the same too. Yeah, correct. But we'll just do a double check. So we'll come back to the sheet, and then total for timber 782.42, so that's correct. And then filter for carpet, and then protection for the carpet tile and all the bedrooms 381. So that's not quite right because it did not pick up the carpet tile. So plus that 381, done. And then there's your final spreadsheet 161. And obviously you can just print to PDF and then change these references. So it's the same reference. This is revision 1, and then you update to whatever the next day, and yeah, that's how you manage revisions. So that's the full process. I know I went really quick, and there's a lot of complex items baked in, like pivot tables and Excel linking and Power Query, which really deserve their own videos. And this is only for one project. You could be doing this 3 or 4 times a week. I don't think there's a hard and fast rule for how you do estimating. Like, each trade will have their own preferences and how they want to manage and manipulate the quantities and manage the overheads and their profit. This is just one example, and I find that it works well for me and my clients. Like, for example, I know there's a few companies that have paid software where a lot of the steps that I showed you is just automated and you don't have to worry about Power Query or linking or anything like that. It just does it for you. But you know, you'll be paying a pretty penny for that. So if you found this video difficult and confusing, hit that like and subscribe button. I do estimates just like this for all of my clients, and I also help them to set up all of their estimating and commercial in a similar way to help them to be more efficient with their coding. So if you need help with this in your business, reach out to us in the description box below, and I'll see you at the next video.